A girl named Lucy is playing with her dad James in front of their house. Suddenly, she tells him she can see her grandfather Jackson, but James looks confused because Jackson is dead and it's not possible that she can see him. He then tells Lucy that he knows she misses her grandpa a lot, but there's no one there. Lucy then starts to cough and James has to take her inside. After Lucy's mom, Isabel, checks her temperature, she tells Lucy that they'll have to see a doctor the next day because she has a fever. Just as James leaves and says he has to check something, Lucy tells Isabel about a book she's writing. She says there's a sad man in the book, but when Isabel asks who it is, Lucy says she doesn't know, and she saw the person in her dream. Isabel tells Lucy to inform her of any way she can help, and just then, she reminds Lucy that Christmas is some days away. Lucy is excited to hear this, and she tells Isabel that she wants to be the one writing on the countdown board. Isabel agrees, and Lucy writes on it for the first time. Meanwhile, James is in his room looking at a picture of Jackson as he seems bothered about what Lucy had said. He also looks outside to see if he can see his father, but Jackson is not visible to him. That night, James goes to check on Lucy before she sleeps. He sees her writing in the book and asks about it. Lucy mentions the sad man in her book, though she also tells James she doesn't know who it is. Lucy, however, says she and the god will soon be friends with the sad man. James doesn't understand this, and he tells her to go to bed early because she's sick. As he walks out, he feels the presence of Jackson in the room, but doesn't know he's right there. After James leaves, Jackson sits on Lucy's bed and asks if he can stay with her. Lucy is happy about this, as she says Jackson is her best friend. She also tells him she's not feeling too well, and Jackson tells her she needs to sleep. Elsewhere, James tells Isabel about how Lucy claims she saw Jackson. Isabel is also confused, and she mentions the sad man in Lucy's book as well. Isabel says she's worried about Lucy, but James assures her that things will be fine. The next day, a prison doctor informs a pastor named Johnson that one of the prisoners, Edgar, is having a serious kidney condition. The doctor says Edgar's kidneys are failing, and he needs to be taken to a proper hospital if there's any chance he'll make it. Edgar hears them as they're talking, and he interrupts them when he learns about his condition. Johnson tells the doctor that he'll speak to the warden to see if they can do anything for Edgar. He then walks into the room and explains to Edgar that he needs an urgent transplant or he's going to die. Edgar doesn't seem to mind, as he thinks he deserves what he's getting. However, Johnson tells him that the god always gives people second chances, and he can take the opportunity he has. Edgar believes he has run out of second chances, but Johnson says he'll still talk to the warden on Edgar's behalf so that something can be done about his condition. Elsewhere, Isabel takes Lucy to see a doctor who says she has pneumonia. He says he'll give Lucy some pills and she'll get better soon. He, however, tells Isabel that if the symptoms persist even after she has taken the pills for a couple of days, then she should come back with Lucy. At home, James calls his mom, April, and tells her about Lucy seeing Jackson. Even though April doesn't think it's possible, she says it's understandable if Jackson appears to Lucy because he loved her so much and they enjoyed each other's company. She also says the house they're currently living in is where she and Jackson used to live, and he might have chosen to hang around. James is still curious about what Lucy saw, but April says she knows Jackson is closer to them than they can believe. Before she ends the call, she tells James not to worry because Lucy is a special girl. Meanwhile, Edgar gets transported to a hospital. When he gets there, he refuses to get down from the bus, but as a prison guard named Luther tries to get rough with him, the warden tells him to let Edgar decide when he wants to come down from the bus. As Edgar finally leaves the bus, the warden tells him to sit in a wheelchair, but he says he's not interested. However, he is too weak to stand, and he falls, so he is helped onto the wheelchair. He is then taken into a room, and there, the warden tells him he signed off on the treatment because he thinks Edgar deserves a second chance. Pastor Johnson also gives him a Bible, saying he hopes Edgar opens it one day. They then tell him to take care of himself as they walk out. However, Luther stays back to threaten Edgar that he won't leave the hospital alive. The doctor in charge of Edgar's treatment, Dr. Stanswick, tells the warden and Johnson that Edgar's treatment won't be easy. She also says because he's a prisoner, his name will be further down the list and he won't be able to get a transplant early enough. The warden says he's aware of things like that, but still has to follow the right procedure to save lives. He also says Edgar won't trouble them because guards will always be stationed with him. He then instructs his prison guards, Wally and Luther, that Edgar must remain cuffed to his bed and that the only time he can leave his room is when it's time for a routine check on his kidneys. Luther says they'll make sure Edgar doesn't try anything funny, and he also points to his gun as a way to stop Edgar from trying to escape. The warden doesn't like this, and he tells Luther not to use his gun on Edgar because he can barely walk and can't escape. After that, they all leave, with Wally taking the first shift to watch Edgar. That night, James tries to give Lucy her drugs, but she doesn't want to take them. Jackson is in the room, and he tells Lucy that James now knows what it feels like, because he also used to reject his drugs as a kid. Lucy laughs and tells James what Jackson said, and even though he looks confused, James says it's not possible to see Jackson. Lucy tries to convince him, but when he doesn't listen, she says he doesn't have to believe her. Just then, Isabel comes in and is able to convince Lucy to take her meds. She also offers Lucy some food, and despite saying she's not hungry at first, Lucy eventually takes some, with Jackson encouraging her as well. The next day, Lucy continues to work on her book, but there are still no signs of improvement in her condition. With 14 days left until Christmas, James and Isabel look worried as they realize it's high time they take Lucy to the hospital again. That night, as they're taking her to the car, Lucy asks if she'll spend some time in the hospital. Isabel tells her it's only for a checkup and to ensure she's okay. When they get there, the doctor says he needs to do some tests to see if her pneumonia is progressing, but he assures them that Lucy will be fine. Just as the doctor leaves, Isabel tells Lucy she's sorry for how she's feeling. She also adds that she and James will be with her until she's better. A while later, a nurse comes over to get Lucy's samples, after which she's asked to rest. The next day, Lucy continues drawing for her book. James is with her, and Lucy mentions that she saw the sad man in her dream again. James asks who it is, but she says she still doesn't know, though she mentions that the person needs help. Suddenly, she asks James if he can see Jackson in the room. James says there's nobody there, and Lucy asks why he doesn't believe her. James then says he believes her, but she says she knows he doesn't, but he soon will. Meanwhile, the doctor tells Isabel that Lucy's pneumonia is progressing. He says they'll give her some meds to help her get better, though Lucy needs to be admitted into the hospital. April arrives right on time, and Isabel hugs her after informing her that Lucy is not getting better. As Lucy is being taken to her room, Edgar is also getting wheeled to go for his tests, and it turns out they're in the same hospital. Immediately, Lucy sees him. She tells James to stop so she can take a good look at Edgar. Edgar continues to be wheeled away by Luther, and Lucy tells her parents that Edgar is the sad man in her dreams. She also shows them her drawing, but while James doesn't think anything she's saying is real, Isabel and April tell Lucy that the drawing looks like Edgar. After Lucy is brought into her room, the nurse leaves, but James follows her. He asks about Edgar, and the nurse explains that he's a prisoner who is there for a kidney transplant. James asks if he should be worried, but the nurse says there's nothing to be worried about because Edgar is well guarded at all times. She, however, offers to change Lucy's room, but James says it's not necessary and he was only curious. Back in the room, Lucy speaks to Isabel's dad, Mike, who says he wishes he could be there with her, but his recent surgery can't let him move well yet. Lucy and Isabel understand, and they tell him to take care. A while later, Dr. Stanswick comes to check on Lucy. After speaking to her, the doctor asks to speak to her parents in private. She then tells Isabel and James that Lucy now has a really serious infection, and if things don't go well, she might go into shock, which might also kill her. Isabel is scared to hear this, and she asks if Lucy could die, but Dr. Stanswick says it's only a worst-case scenario. Meanwhile, Luther resumes his shift and sees Edgar looking at a picture of his family. Luther asks for it, and despite initially disagreeing, Edgar eventually gives it to him. Luther jokes about the picture and says Edgar will never see them again. He then tears the picture in half and throws it back at Edgar before leaving the room. Edgar is unhappy with this, but he can't do anything. That night, James tells Isabel and April to go home while he stays with Lucy for the night. After they leave, Lucy says a prayer before going to bed. A while later, while James is asleep, Lucy gets up from her bed and walks out of the room. She sees the hospital cleaner, Bart, and introduces herself to him. She then asks if he's sad, and when he says he is, she tells him not to worry because the God loves him. She also says she'll draw him a picture and give it to him the next day. As she continues moving forward, Jackson shows up and asks where she's going. Lucy says she's going to visit a friend, and Jackson says he knows who she's talking about. She then asks him why she's always stronger when he's around. Jackson tells her that angels always give strength to people who believe. He then tells her that he'll turn on the alarm close to Edgar's room to distract Luther, who is playing games on his phone. This works quite well, and Lucy goes in to see Edgar. She introduces herself, but Edgar doesn't understand what she's doing there. Lucy says she wants to be friends with him. She also tells him she saw him in her dreams, and the god showed his face to her. Edgar doesn't seem to be in the mood, but Lucy says she'll be back the next day so they can read the Bible together. Just as Edgar tries to get her not to come again, Luther hears him talking to someone. Lucy immediately hides as she sees Luther coming. He enters the room but doesn't find anyone, so he thinks Edgar is only talking to himself. Meanwhile, Lucy sneaks out and goes back to her room. The next day, Lucy struggles to breathe well, and the nurse immediately gives her an oxygen mask to help. Dr. Stanswick also comes in and tells Lucy's parents that her condition is getting worse, though they'll give her more drugs to help. That day, when James pushes Lucy around in a wheelchair, she sees Edgar also going for his routine tests. She tells James to stop, and then tells Edgar what's wrong with him. She asks for his own condition, and he says his kidneys are failing and he needs a new one. Lucy asks James if she has one, and when he says she has two, she tells Edgar she can give him one. James is shocked to hear this and tells her it's not how things work, because she also needs them. As Edgar is wheeled away, James tells Lucy to stop talking to Edgar. She's unhappy with this because she says the god loves Edgar, but James says he might be dangerous. That night, Isabel and April stay with Lucy, but while they're asleep, Jackson comes to get her so she can go and meet Edgar. As she leaves the room, she sees Bart and gives him the picture she promised. He appreciates it, and after a while, she sneaks again into Edgar's room. Both of them seem to get along, and Lucy prays they get better soon. He shows her a picture of his family, and even though he says they no longer care for him, Lucy says they can still come for him as long as he believes. She then asks for Edgar's Bible, and after allowing him to read it for a while, she tells him she has to leave. As she's heading back to her room, she sees an old lady named Betty. After introducing herself, she tells Betty that the god loves her. She also asks if Betty can see Jackson, and she says she can. Lucy soon heads back to her room, and as the days pass, she continues to sneak out to read the Bible with Edgar. 4 days before Christmas, Lucy meets another young patient and gives him a picture, saying the god loves him. On Christmas Eve, Lucy sees Edgar's wife, Adrian, and his daughter, Tiana, preparing to go inside Edgar's room to see him. Pastor Johnson is the one who brought them, and he says Edgar is not aware that they're around. He goes in first and looks happy to see Edgar finally reading the Bible. Shortly after, Adrian and Tiana come in, and Edgar is extremely happy to see them after a really long time. On Christmas Day, while her family is around, Lucy tells Dr. Stanswick that she wants to give one of her kidneys to Edgar as a Christmas present. Everyone in the room is surprised to hear this, but Lucy says Edgar is her friend, and she doesn't want him to die. James asks the doctor if it's possible, and when she says it is, he and Isabel say they'll think about it. That night, Lucy says she has finished her book and needs to give it to Edgar. She asks James to take her, and on their way, James is shocked to see Lucy greets other young patient, calling them her friends. As they're about to enter Edgar's room, she tells James that Jackson is going to switch on the alarm to distract Luther, and he is shocked when this happens, though he still can't see Jackson. When they enter Edgar's room, he's happy to see Lucy and tells James that Lucy changed his life. He then tells Lucy about his wife and daughter, who came to see him. Lucy is happy for him, and she says the god showed him to her through her dreams. She then hands over her book before she leaves with James. Before they go far, Lucy sees that Luther's keys are on the chair, while he is still arguing with a nurse about how the alarm went off. She takes the key to Edgar's cuffs and goes back to give them to him so he can remove them when he wants. When Lucy returns to her room, her health worsens, and April goes to the doctor. Edgar also starts reading Lucy's book, and as soon as he's done, he unlocks his cuffs and sneaks out to find her. However, when he gets to her room, the nurses are struggling to revive her, after which she's pronounced dead. Lucy's parents are terrified, and Edgar is also sad about this. Meanwhile, James sees Lucy's ghost walk out, and as he follows, he sees her with Jackson. He begs her not to go, but she just waves at him. Days later, one of Lucy's kidneys is donated to Edgar, and he gets better and reunites with his family. Years later, James and Isabel are blessed with a baby boy named Alex. As James plays with his son in front of the house, he suddenly sees Jackson and Lucy standing at the gate. Alex asks him what he's looking at, and James says it's his grandfather and his sister. From there, Jackson holds Lucy's hand, and they walk away. Thanks for tuning in. A thumbs up would be amazing because I've got some bills to pay.
Big dog status, I'm a big dog vet. I pull up on the block in a big